The War Within's next full patch, Blizzard's downfall, and massive nerfs. There is a book coming out talking about all the things that happened within Blizzard that led to the departure of a bunch of the Blizzard leaders, and obviously Bobby Kotick getting his little Kotick fingers into his little goblin hands all over everything, and ruining a lot of the stuff that we liked about the game. Now, I'll be honest, since Blizzard moved over to Microsoft, I feel like things have gotten a little bit better. I'm not saying Microsoft's great by any means. I mean, they're after a profit just like every other company. Thank you for the 100 bits. Thank you so much, Burning. But all in all, it's been better. It couldn't have gotten worse, that was for sure. So here we are. Let's see what Bellular has to say about these subjects.
Welcome back, everyone. It's time for the news where there's a lot to talk about. So, we know why Mike Morhaime left. We know the sorts of things that Bobby Kotick got up to, all because of an excerpt of Jason Schreier's book. That'll be pretty fun. And a lot of things that ex-senior staff told me in person years ago have been confirmed. That'll be a lot of fun. But for things actually within World of Warcraft,
You know what I wonder? I wonder if they regret selling Blizzard. I would say probably not. I mean, yes and no. They made a lot of money when they sold Blizzard to Activision, right? And I think their original thought was, well, we'll stay in charge, we'll stay with Blizzard, and we're still going to do Blizzard things, but now we're going to have the funding and everything that comes with a massive company like Activision. And eventually they lost their one true love, Blizzard. I wonder if they ever look back and say, I should have just been satisfied with being very rich instead of very, very rich, and would have been able to still work on the stuff I love. Who knows?
Also an absolute stack, and I'll get stuck in with the first one, which is that for the last 10 years, starting late Mists of Pandaria, mounts and their descriptions on the store have been one way of hinting at what's coming next. The trend continues this week, but it's a little bit different because it's happening with a pet on the trading post. October rewards have been unveiled. They're actually pretty good, and one of them hints basically at the next patch. It's called the Soot Stained.
These pests are known for their cantankerous attitudes and affinity for nesting in smokestacks of Undermine. Oh, shit. I missed the text description on this pet. Yeah, we're getting Undermine, guys. We're going to get a Goblin-focused patch. And this part of it is, too, like everyone's worried about all the focus on the Alliance. The Horde are going to get their time. And it's coming with the Undermine patch, that's for sure.
Shalewing, and well, its description is it's pretty overt. It has a affinity for nesting in the smokestacks of Undermine. So that's very much another hint for the pile. And between it, the 11.1 Goblin icon that was spotted a while back, and then the unanswered Goblin questions in the side quests, as well as the Gazlo comic, which felt a little bit random for the War Within. I mean, there really is a lot of evidence pointing at Undermine in 11.1.
Yeah.
Honestly, so much so that I'm almost curious, like, are Blizzard trying to do a bait and switch or something here? A lot of people also expect the Haranir and the Rootlands as a patch, maybe in 11.1. And to be honest,
I think Rootlands is more likely to be the next one. It makes more sense. We've already talked about the Haranir, as I call them, and everything that's coming with them. And they seem like the ones who need more story development right now, especially early in the expansion. And then we'll probably go to Undermine. I'm guessing we're going to dig deeper at some point and find the ancient goblin city that we've heard so much about but never seen.
The idea of a straight Goblin patch does feel kind of off to me. It would feel a little bit out of left field. That being
that
said,
would be sick
if there is a Goblin raid, I don't think that rules out the Haranir and the Rootlands. Given the Goblins are probably going to be doing some resource extraction, maybe targeting the roots, it makes complete sense that the Haranir would, want to kill them.
True.
Expect to find out soon anyway, and remember, there is no BlizzCon this year, but Blizzard are doing a Warcraft Direct, which will basically be some sort of live stream event replacement. It'll likely happen within the next month and a half, and with that, we will find out what's exactly next, including the roadmap, which does mean you got plenty of time to train up.
It will teach you real skills that are high impact, and I know that because it's what I majored in. Boot.dev/Bellular will teach you back-end development using Python and Go, and they will solve the worst learning pitfall, bouncing from tutorial to tutorial, forum post to forum post, all done by different people with different styles and not on complete projects.
Great.
Boot gives you a complete learning path. It's extensive, it's made by back-end devs who love video games, which is why they've baked in community raid bosses, XP, quests, leaderboards, all of that, and they've built a killer Discord community. And now's actually a perfect time to start. You see, they've posted a 7-hour walkthrough of their Python course, and that's big because Python is the foundational thing here. It's the first programming language you'll be learning, and the amazing thing with programming is once you learn one language, you learn so many concepts and basically logic that applies to every other programming language, and it makes this an amazing start. You can get 25% off your first purchase with code Bellular.
There it is.
With that, you can hop into fun, game concept-inspired problems that leverage what you already understand from video games to help the new concepts click. Or even just do a fun project like building a Pokedex. Boot also runs a no-questions-asked 30-day money-back guarantee. They've got free demos for all their courses, and they are super consumer-friendly. So again, boot.dev/Bellular, 25% off your first purchase, and they'll take care of you for the rest.
Now, while we're talking about the trading post, I should highlight that it's actually pretty good this month. We've got a mount again as a reward, which is brilliant. It's the Depth Stalker, which is one of those Zereth Mortis-style jellyfish mounts. I think it's pretty neat. And also, everything this month is black or white, which will be really...
Yeah, really cool. Good. I think it's a good trading post. Honestly, the trading posts they've given us since The War Within came out have been really good. The mounts and the rewards and everything like that. We were worried about the trading post for a while. Towards the end of Dragonflight, that shit was just getting bad. Like, we were getting fairy wings and all kinds of weird shit as our overall reward rather than getting cool things like mounts and pets and stuff. So this is definitely an upgrade. It's been pretty good so far.
Good for just like versatile transmog pieces. You can even get yourself a pair of Uggs. Fantastic. But also this Harvest Golem cosplay, which I think is really lovely for Halloween. That being said, though, yeah, you're going to want to spend loads of tender in November, most likely, and that's because the 3-piece sets that were themed around classes from last year, well, those are coming back in November, including the weapons, which is a shit ton of stuff. That will cost a lot of tender, and better yet, they're actually not class restricted this time round. That's really good. They're gorgeous bits of gear, so if you missed out getting them last year or during Remix, then yeah, you at least have a chance in November.
I hated the Death Knight one, so I can give two shits.
But it'll be expensive. Next up then, we got Blizzard reacting to feedback. So the Trolls Doll Ascendance form that is coming soon, to some people is really cool, but not everybody felt that it really matched their idea of a shaman popping off. Blizzard basically agreed, so it's now been reined in and I would say refined a little for the update.
Yeah, this one's way cooler.
I think the update looks great. They've now got like big shoulder pads and a helmet that sort of keep all of that crazy hair power contained. The good news though is if you do like the old model or the big hair version, those are going to be available via glyphs. Next, and this is massive if you want to upgrade your character, Zekfir has been giga-nerfed. A wave of hotfixes on Friday made him just notably easier on both of his difficulty tiers. He's got about 10% less HP, he does less damage, but far more importantly, the egg takes long.
Yeah, I was gonna say the egg is the biggest part of this. It takes a lot less damage to break it. So the egg honestly was the DPS check of this fight, and that's why a lot of tanks still couldn't do it. But they nerfed it, so now it should be much more doable.
To hatch, and the egg is much easier to kill. And that is the bit of the encounter that would actually get you killed. Yeah. And it's basically now trivial. To be clear, he is still not easy. You can get killed, but to put it this way, we've beaten a tier 1 Zekfir on a 576 Boomkin and a 535 Rat Paladin. Wow. And then with tier 2, we've defeated that on a 612 Unholy DK. Basically just set Bran into his healer mode, hold your cooldowns for the egg, do all the other mechanics right, and you basically will win. That will get you your tier 2 Void Dirigible in a way that, unlike the initial version, wasn't because of, well, Bran being completely overpowered. And there's another reason here.
By the way, he kind of mentioned it there briefly. If you ever feel undergeared, put Bran in healing mode. Even if you're a healer, whatever you are, just have Bran heal for you. Like, I played it as a blood DK, and people make fun of me how I was putting Bran in healing mode. But that was when I was 20 item levels less than the recommended item level. Now I'm putting him in DPS mode. But whenever you're pushing harder to do with the harder content, putting him in healing mode is the best thing you can do.
If you spam tier 1s, you will basically find for yourself the fastest way to fill your vault with item level 616 gear.
It's also the best Valor Stone way to farm Valor Stones. Doing Zekfir over and over and over on a lesser difficulty is the best way to get more and more Valor Stones, which I actually need.
Crazy. On our Paladin kill, at a measly eye level 535, a freshly dinged character, he was dead in 5 minutes. And that means that taking out Zekfir is faster than even the shortest tier 8 delve. And for geared characters, it's also the fastest way to farm Valor Stones in the game. An item level 610-ish DPS can kill him in just over a minute. You get 25 Valor Stones a kill, which basically means 300 stones in around 20 minutes. That's a lot of stones. We're currently working on a guide for this, so it should drop within the next few days. Okay, Blizzard drama, juicy stuff, corporate shenanigans, Jason Schreier. I know that's a lot of words, but Jason Schreier is really the journalist with contacts in Activision and Blizzard. He's got a new book coming out that's called Play Nice, The Rise, Fall, and Future of Blizzard Entertainment. It's not out yet, but he did post a preview to Bloomberg, and it's fun. Yeah, this is not going to be a shocker, but we were not the only people who didn't love Bobby Kotick's influence, and that's because Mike...
Chapter 12, Bobby. It's great. Growing Pains, Baseball, The Curse of Success, Redemption, Card Games, Third Place, Fugitives. Wow, these chapters sound great. Donut Theory, Click, Click, Click. Oh no, The Boys Club. This might be the Bill Cosby shit. I'm surprised he didn't have a chapter called The Cosby Suite.
Mike Morhaime was not a fan of Bobby Kotick at all. Essentially, it paints a picture of constant fighting with Activision and...
Oh wow, he talks about Titan too. This is really interesting. Incubation, NFL of video games. Changing of the Guard, Reforged. Oh god. A chapter about Reforged. The Blizzard tax. Yep. Yeah, this probably has some really cool stuff.
Kotick that got so bad that Mike Morhaime tried to resign in 2017. He was then convinced not to. Basically, right, Bobby loved the fame and fortune of owning World of Warcraft. He was a little bit obsessed with Titan as the next big thing, because if Titan pulled off a Warcraft, it would have been one of the most line-go-up events in gaming. But obviously with Titan, $80 million, and 7 years later, the thing got killed. Which, honestly, for today's games industry, is absolutely pitiful numbers. Come on! Modern game companies can waste so much more money, but for back then, it was a shitload. Bobby did not take this dying well. He forced Morhaime to basically bring in an executive who was as obsessed with the old bean counting as Bobby was, all to make sure that that kind of wastage didn't happen again.
Yeah, basically he brought in the chief financial officer and forced him to forced him to be allowed to basically sit on all the Blizzard internal meetings. And he basically chief financialed Blizzard to death. Yeah, just asking stupid questions like, why is BlizzCon a thing? It's not very profitable. Why aren't you selling more cards in Hearthstone? You know, just being a creepy-ass, bitch-ass goblin, just putting all of his goblin fingers into everything, and essentially breaking Blizzard apart because the Blizzard, the heads of Blizzard just really didn't like his ideas.
Really, that was the beginning of the end. Profit margins needed to go up, and look, in a way, that is fair and understandable. The problem, though, is how do you do that in the context of a games company that makes games and not generic widgets? As an example, the new CFO that was brought in wanted to kill BlizzCon for not being worth it on the balance sheet, because bean counters like that do not understand the psychological value of things. They don't understand the intangibles. He was, in fact, so clueless in games that he asked why they couldn't just make more games by opening more offices, because that...
Oh, God. And here's the thing. Here's like a big thing that a lot of CTOs, CEOs, whatever you want to call them, do, is they care about the here and now, right? They're looking for that next big bonus. They're looking for that next big move in their industry. And they care about the immediate success, for 1 to 2 to 3 years, whatever it is, to make sure they're making as much money possible in that time frame. Would they make more money over time, say in 10 years over time, if they're loyal to the players, just make great content and keep people subbed for a longer period of time? Yes, they would. But these guys aren't thinking like that because they don't think they're going to be there in 10 years. So they don't give a shit to set it up to be great for 10 years. They care about the balance sheets for this quarter. That's what they care about. And that's why these kinds of dumb decisions happen all the time.
Worked in his last job. Soap. Because, yeah, he didn't come from the gaming industry. He was a soap man, amongst other things. Basically, everything that we could see from the outside was real. There are cases where it was worse than we thought. Many stumbles Blizzard made, well, they would just be an excuse for Bobby or his lackeys to cut some costs or install more of their own people within Blizzard Entertainment. And the ultimate reason why Mike stepped down is because he couldn't keep Kotick from ruining or at least changing his Blizzard. Yeah. Bobby, over the years, assumed more and more control. That was that. And in an email sent in 2018, shortly before he left, Morhaime said this to Kotick: "It has been increasingly hard for me to provide Blizzard leadership and staff confidence that Blizzard has a stable future." That is just one excerpt from the book. There, what is especially in my mind is a long discussion that I had with a developer, not in World of Warcraft, but you would actually know them. But I had that in like maybe 2018, 2 or 3 hours, and it really just completely reflects this. So
I read a little bit of this, and they did say that the time that Mike Morhaime knew that it was over was when Bobby called an all-hands meeting, basically like all-company meeting, and he started the meeting by talking about how we are now one Activision Blizzard. The slogan of it was OAB. Like that was those initials, and that was stood for one Activision Blizzard. And they said from now on, there's no more siloing off. We're gonna all make decisions together. Everyone's gonna be part of the process. And basically, Mike Morhaime knew that that meant that Blizzard's autonomy to basically run as Blizzard believed it should, even though it had been absorbed by Activision, to continue to run the Blizzard success way was done. They were done. Those days were gone, and now Bobby and the CTO and everybody was going to be involved in every decision they make.
I'm not surprised. This is absolutely how a lot of it went, and suffice to say, whenever I get my hands on that book, I will be diving deep into it. Okay, let's round it off with some quickfire news. Patron orders have been updated if you're a crafter. It's quite nice. They are now much more likely to provide you with reagents, and orders for extremely expensive items won't appear anymore, which is a bit unhinged. Now you might actually be able to progress your crafting without completely bankrupting yourself. Maybe.
Nice.
Then tons of nerfs have came in, and for Raid, it's mostly outlier cases for smaller group. That's things like Brew Twister adds, Kavessa's damage, and a bunch of things on Ansarek.
Sure.
So those have been nerfed. And for dungeons...
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these are mythic related. You always see this after a Race to World First wraps up. Basically, they got to nerf the shit out of the raid so all the regular people and peasants can go clear the raid too.
Ansarek. So those have been nerfed. And for dungeons, nerfs and fixes are just swarming in. Siege of Borealis was clearly too much for players. Gotta say, been in there twice. Wasn't a great time. Didn't have that much fun. It just felt like, yes, there were mechanics, but they were just annoying. That's what Borealis felt like to me anyway, so that stuff has been toned down across the board, and they've even nixed the frustrating knockback on the last boss as well. Then Necrotic Wake's big gatekeeper guy has been nerfed, but he's also worth more mob count, so some routes will need to be updated, and more importantly, the rot damage from the third boss's abominations has been nerfed. Then Grimbatal has got some key nerfs to target the biggest killers, and the last boss has been shrank a little bit, so maybe you'll be able to see what's happening. Lastly then, Stonevault's Machinists have been fixed to not put you in a unwinnable situation, and I'd say overall Mythic Plus is feeling pretty great this time round. I think this week of hotfixes will knock out, I mean, most of the major issues. And then finally in this week's
the problem is though with the Zalateth mechanic right now is just how those mobs will pop in like certain moments during boss fights. I was saying this before, where you just can't dodge them. You can't do anything because you're doing a boss mechanic. So Zalateth's bargain happens and you're like, oh shit, we're fucked, because you can't interrupt the guys quick enough or get them down. You're currently like running away from a dodge mechanic or something, and it completely screws up the fight. And it's just bad RNG. I feel like Blizzard should create windows of time where though things like Zalateth's bargain just can't happen, because you're supposed to be doing a certain boss mechanic, and then once that's done and you're back to tanking and spanking, sure, then you can pop it. But I feel like that's a fix Blizzard needs to put in right now.
Got some new content both in Live and Season of Discovery. Season of Discovery is something we don't cover that often because it's outside of our wheelhouse, but Phase 5 is live. So if you're done with Modern WoW already, then there is actually more Warcraft to go and play. And even if you don't fancy doing Blackwing Lair again, there's actually a new boss for the Classic Plus dungeon that they've added, and there's a whole new one-boss raid called the Crystal Veil, which is really cool. It's basically just Prince Thunderan as a world boss, so yeah, pretty cool. Season of Discovery devs do try to cook when they can. And over in the front for Modern, well, we've got raid testing for 1105's new raid. Yeah, because we're getting a new raid for the Blackrock Depths. The PTR is actually shaping up real well, and I would say that our potential late October release date is looking more likely than ever. And if you want to see part of what's coming in that patch, which basically is the really cool new hero talents, well, check out this video next.
Yes, what's up, Unreal Blue? Yeah, great video from Bellular here. Yes, we already all knew that when Mike Morhaime left, that whole exchange on stage and everything said a million words. I mean, it was very obvious that he was leaving in a sad way. Like, his company had basically been destroyed by the merger and everything else, and he was no longer enjoying the work that he had been previously doing at Blizzard. So that was pretty obvious. Other than that, the patch notes, everything else seemed pretty good. The nerfs to raid, of course, expected as Race to World First ended. And good stuff coming in the trading post, or I should say now here in the trading post, because we are now in October. Good video.